Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie related show on the planet, the John Campea Show. Coming from right here on my YouTube channel, as it is, hopefully this time through, error-free. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and I'm joined today by Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how are you doing today? Part 2.
John, I'm fantastic, and I really appreciate your fortitude at getting the show back up and running. It speaks to your professionalism.
My professionalism. Listen, I'm going to tell you what. So for those of you who don't know, maybe you're watching this live and you're joining us late. Maybe you're watching this after the fact. So we tried to do the show live a few minutes ago, about half hour ago. We tried to go on live, and we started experiencing this brutal echo, this repeating echo, and I could not find what the hell was going wrong with it. And so we pulled the plug on the show. You have to understand, nothing gets me more angry than when I know I have let my viewers down. When I feel like I have robbed my viewers of something they're expecting from me, I feel humiliated and embarrassed, and oh my God, I got hot. As a matter of fact, here's a little picture of me. Rob, you can't see this right now. Here's a picture of me immediately following doing the show, and I think it's fair to say I lost my shit. As a matter of fact, you might be wondering, John, what happened to those poor headphones? Oh, here's what happened to those headphones. Here's what happened to those headphones. Let this be a lesson to these headphones not to cross me. So I got so pissed. But thankfully, Rob kept his cool and composure. And then as I walked through every single detail of the live broadcasting show to figure out what the holy hell went wrong, and then I believe we found the problem. The fact that I'm not getting everybody in the chat board yelling, echo, 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 I think is a testimony to the fact that I think we've got everything up and running. So listen,
Show's
we're
looking
already...
lovely.
Show's looking lovely. It's looking so good today. And anyway, so with all that down, guys, let's start talking about some movie-related stuff here. Before we get into our main topics today, we do have one thing off the top to talk about. And that one thing we're going to talk about off the top is this. Rob, the Martin Scorsese thing is back in the news again.
Yes.
So for those of you, let's recap quickly. A couple months ago, Martin Scorsese made some inflammatory comments about Marvel movies and comic book movies aren't real art. They're not cinema, blah, 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 blah. He has since realized, I think, the error of his ways, and there was no need to make those comments, and he's kind of backtracked those a little bit. Now, I started getting a bunch of people tweeting me and emailing me about Martin Scorsese again, saying, did you hear that Scorsese's at it again, John? He's trashing comic book movies again. I'm like, really? Because I thought he was backtracking a lot of that stuff. So here's the article that is in question here. So Martin Scorsese was doing an interview with, I believe, the New York Times, Rob, and he was asked directly about Joker. He was asked about Joker, and basically he said that he didn't see it, but that he saw clips of it. And he says, I know it, because, of course, he was one of the guys initially who brought the film to Warner Brothers with Todd Phillips. He goes, I know it, so it's like, why do I need to see it? I get it. It's fine. It's kind of his comments. So I had some people writing to me, Rob, about these comments and saying, oh my gosh, he's at it again. Doesn't this make you furious? And I'm going to tell you what, to be honest with you, I don't hold these comments against Martin Scorsese, and here's why. This isn't like Martin Scorsese called a press conference and said, everybody, I've held it in long enough. I need to let everybody know how I feel about Joker. I didn't even watch it. I saw clips. It's fine. It's not like he did that. He was doing an interview, probably about Irishman, because he's about to get some Oscar nominations for this film of his. And he was put on the spot and directly asked about it. He didn't lie. He didn't say, yeah, I saw it, when he didn't. He says he saw clips, probably just clips of his buddy Robert De Niro, and said it's fine. Whatever. When the guy is being put on the spot and he's just got to answer like that, I think quite often I'm guilty of this, and I think a lot of film fans are guilty of this. I think when we hear a comment from somebody, we treat it as if that person made a decision to hold some press conference and announce to the world, when sometimes it's really just a matter that they were kind of put on the spot by a reporter asking a question. They just answered something off the top of their head, and maybe it was the best answer, maybe it wasn't. So for me personally, Rob, I don't have a lot of problem with what Scorsese said, and to me, it's kind of a non-issue. How do you feel about it?
Well, first of all, I read the whole article, and it is a fantastic profile of Scorsese. It's if you're a fan of movies and want to hear the master speak about where he's at in his life and his career, it is an essential article, and I would encourage everyone to read it. And in this article, he really addresses time and mortality and how much time he has left as a filmmaker and what the meaning of The Irishman was. And it's pretty melancholy. And I think that, when you have a guy like Martin Scorsese, who's had a career for the better part of more than 50 years, and he's done so much for restoring old movies. I mean, I remember seeing him speak when I saw restoration of the Red Shoes that he was responsible for. He's done so much for movies and film history that I think, if you want to get mad about his comments about Marvel and maybe not seeing the Joker because, how much time does he have left? And that's kind of what he addresses. And I think that Martin Scorsese has earned all of our respect and all of our admiration, and he's only ever enriched the film landscape. And I would encourage everybody to read this article because it's a wonderful piece. So.
Right, but the one part that people are naturally going to try to pick out and throw it out there, and I get it, I get it, because, listen, Scorsese put himself in this position with his comments before, and I get it, but honestly, I really don't think there's anything wrong here. He was put on the spot, he gave a quick, honest answer, and I really don't think it's a lot for us to need to talk about, but a lot of you guys wrote to me about it, so we did talk about it. So the question is, guys, do you think there's actually something here that should be discussed, or do you kind of feel like me that maybe it's much ado about nothing? Jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, guys, we've got the main topics of the show now to come up. Now, a little bit later on the second half of the show, we're going to be taking your live questions. There are two ways to send in live questions. Number one, and the best way to do it, is you'll see a tip link in the top line of the description of this video. You can click on that. And by the way, you can use that link 24/7 to send in a topic or question for the show, and we'll just get around to it on the next show that we do. So you can use that, or you can use the YouTube Super Chat feature, and we will get around to your question a little bit later in the show. All right. But for now, let's get on to our main topics. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. See, you guys come up with them by simply going over anytime 24/7 to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, fill out the form with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's move on to our first main topic today. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Frankie, who writes, "Hey, John and company. I've seen an article that the New Mutants is releasing in 2020 is Josh Boone's original version and not the revamped version. If that's the case, why even do the reshoots? And will this further make the movie more cash negative? Thanks, and may more filth be in 2020. All right, thanks a lot for sending in that question, man. And yes, for those of you who aren't really clear on what it is that he's talking about, we know that the New Mutants is coming. That we've known for a while. That Disney gave it its release date. I believe it's April, Rob. I think it's April that they gave it its release date. So that's coming, and we've known that. Now, Josh Boone was on social media and basically saying, yeah, it's going to be kind of his original vision. Well, Screen Rant wrote up kind of a thing about this, which I thought was worth repeating here. So what does it mean by the original vision? Here's what it is. New Mutants producers, including X-Men franchise overseer Simon Kinberg and Fox, leaned on Josh Boone to bring the spin-off movie that he was shooting more in line with a typical Fox X-Men film during production, deviating from his original horror movie premise. So while they were originally shooting, they kind of forced him to change directions. However, the studio then went and cut together a pretty horror-centric New Mutants trailer in October of 2017. Yes, it's been over 2 years since the New Mutants trailer came out, but we all remember that trailer, and we like that trailer, in the hopes of tapping into the demand for more horror entertainment on the heels of its big box office success a month earlier. Following the trailer's positive response, the studio made plans for Boone to carry out reshoots to bring New Mutants closer back to what he had in mind originally from the very beginning. So, if we understand these comments properly, the whole idea of his original vision, it doesn't mean that the reshoots were a waste, Rob. It actually means the reshoots were done to get the movie back to the kind of original concept and original vision that Josh Boone had. So if that's the case, it means that these reshoots in and of themselves really weren't a quote unquote waste of time or a waste of money. And I'll tell you what, dude, I remember I had some question marks about New Mutants until that first trailer came out. But when that first trailer came out and it was so horror-centric, I remember the thing that excited me was the fact that, awesome, Fox had been doing some really cutting-edge stuff. Deadpool, first real comic book movie in the new age of comic books to go really edgy, hard R. They broke new ground. Logan, they broke totally new ground. They were doing all this different stuff with comic book movies, and I thought now they're doing it again with New Mutants. So to hear that they're actually going to be in that tone and in that vein, to me is exciting, Rob. You hear that they're going to keep this thing as Josh Boone's kind of original vision. Good thing, bad thing? How do you see it?
Dude, I'm stoked. I mean, I loved the storyline that this was based on. It was after Bill Sienkiewicz had left drawing Moon Knight and came over to New Mutants and brought his ever-evolving style. And it was so indelible to me. And it was the Demon Bear storyline, and the horror elements were just dripping off the page. So the idea that, first of all, they were making a New Mutants movie excited me. But then when I heard that they were going to do this particular storyline as the basis, I'm like, bruh, bring that on. I mean, I can't wait to see what they're doing with this film. And it's great. Like, do we know, though, that the reshoots were even done? I mean, I don't know if they even ever did them. And I'm just so excited that somebody, cooler heads somewhere, prevailed, because, Disney could have dumped this movie somewhere onto Hulu. And the fact that they're putting it out leads me to believe it's probably something worth seeing. So, especially after X-Men Dark Phoenix came out and didn't do so well at the box office compared to the other X-Men movies, so that they're putting this out, I think, and after hearing Bill Sienkiewicz tweet about it the other day, or put on a Facebook post saying he was excited about what he'd seen, I'm really stoked for this, man. I got my fingers crossed. I want it to be great, John. I really do.
Yeah, I do too. And you know what? You raise an excellent point about, did these reshoots even happen? Because there's been actually, I was like a lot of film fans where I was just under the impression and just kind of believed de facto, oh yeah, we heard the reshoots were going on. But then there have been some contradictory reports. And honestly, the bottom line here is, I don't even 100% know. Right. I'm not even sure that those reshoots per se happened. And if they didn't happen, then these other reports about the reshoots were to get the movie back into the thing, then all this stuff becomes one big convoluted mess. And I think, unfortunately, Rob, that kind of becomes the describing factor of this whole New Mutants experiment. Has been one big convoluted mess up until this point. So here's hoping April's going to come and we're going to get ourselves a great movie. Question is, guys, how are you feeling right now about this New Mutants movie? I'm starting to feel some enthusiasm about it. Maybe understandably, a lot of you guys are in a place of, I'm just so fatigued over this whole New Mutant drama. I don't even care if it comes out now. I'm excited. You might not be. How do you feel? Jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to our next main topic today. And our second main topic today gets sent in to us by Jermaine Shibasu, who writes, as announced yesterday, the WandaVision Disney Plus show will release this year, 2020, not 2021, as has always been the plan, a year earlier from its original schedule. I'm excited for this. What do you make of the news, John? Love the show. Keep it up. All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, it was announced that WandaVision, the show that was supposed to come out in 2020, Rob, they announced yesterday they've actually moved it up. Now, this was kind of a weird announcement. Basically, Disney put out this video kind of highlighting, here's all the stuff that we've got coming in 2020, and included in that video package was actually WandaVision. So they've moved it up to 2020. Now, I would hesitate to say, though, that it has been moved up a year, because I don't know what the exact release date of it in 2021 was going to be, and we still don't know what the release date of 2020 is going to be. For all we know, it's only going to be a 2 or 3 month difference. But still, it has been moved up. It's coming out this year. So that's exciting. I mean, whenever we get something we're looking forward to come closer to where we're at, that's exciting. So I'm excited to hear that. But Rob, you hear this, 2 things I want to ask you. Number one, is this something that's exciting, or do you think that maybe they should have left it off a little bit later? But why, if you had to speculate a little bit here, what do you think might be the motivation behind Marvel taking this property, this Disney Plus property that was scheduled for 2021, they announced it for 2021. What do you think might be behind the whole idea of moving it up to 2020 at this point? Understanding we're just speculating, but what do you think might be the motive behind that?
Well, first of all, one, I'm excited because, I'm a big fan of what they're doing over at the MCU, and I love the fact that they're transitioning their big screen characters into streaming, and then they're going to take them back out into movies again. I think this is innovative. It's something we've never seen before, and I mean the pre-planning. Here's my take on it. I think that as they're developing Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, or Thor: Love and Thunder, or whatever is next for Captain America and the Winter Soldier, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they're leaving themselves open. When opportunities arise, they can take them. And I think that they're probably pretty damn excited about WandaVision and where it's going. And they realize it's something they have enough time to make, even if it comes out in 2020. Disney Plus certainly would be welcome after seeing their rousing success with The Mandalorian. They would love to get more original content of that caliber on their streaming platform as soon as possible. So I think it's probably a win-win for everyone. And I hope mostly it's a win-win for us fans of the MCU. And I've really enjoyed Disney Plus. And look, I thought that last episode of The Mandalorian really made a statement about where they're trying to go as far as their original content is concerned. I mean, talk about crowd-pleasing entertainment. And if they can do the same thing with the MCU that they did with The Mandalorian, I think Disney Plus is quickly going to become, a powerhouse streaming service. Not that they haven't done very, very well already. They've exceeded their expectations, but we'll see now that The Mandalorian is gone, how many subscribers did they lose who were only interested in The Mandalorian? I'm already seeing these people going, why should I stay on Disney Plus when The Mandalorian's over? Why should I just look at movies from my childhood? And I'm like, well, it's your one-stop shop for Star Wars, your one-stop shop for the MCU. There's other reasons why Disney Plus is great. I think delving into movies from your childhood, look, I think everybody should watch 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, one of the greatest fantasy films ever made. But that's kind of what I think where it's all coming from. And I think it's I'm optimistic about it. I think it's a good move. It's an exciting move. And I'm stoked, dude.
We talked about this on the show yesterday. We talked on the show about, this notion that people are unsubscribing from Disney Plus. And, what becomes understandable is that then some people are asking the question, could the motivation of them moving WandaVision into 2020 from 2021, could the motivation there be because they realized people are leaving Disney Plus as a result of Mandalorian ending, and they got to do something to bring more content into 2020? And I'm going to suggest that that's not the case. I don't think that's the case for 2 reasons. One, while there are some people who are, unsubscribing, I don't think it's a significant number. I don't think it's like 8% of people. I don't think it's probably like 1%, 2%, which is still a big number. I'm not saying that's insignificant. That's still a big number, but it's not like ground shaking for them. And it's nothing that Disney wasn't expecting. I think Disney knew to expect that once Mandalorian was done, there would be some people that would trail off. I would think that maybe the ending of Mandalorian and some people leaving, if they had moved WandaVision to next week, if they had moved WandaVision to next week and said, man, then you got to say, well, clearly they did that to keep people from unsubscribing to the channel, but they didn't. We don't even know. For all we know, it's going to come out on December 31st of 2020, one day before 2021. So we don't know. But I mean, I think probably, if anything else, it probably has something more to do with the streamlining of the narrative of the MCU post Endgame. And
Right.
I can't help but wonder if maybe it's at some point Kevin Feige and his brain trust went, it'll make more sense for our overall MCU storyline if we take this and place it here in the story instead of here in the story. So I got a feeling it's probably more story-based. What do you think?
I agree with you. And because it's Marvel and, they have a plan. They know what they're doing. I think if they can get the show produced and finished the way they want, and why shouldn't they? They've got an incredible production pipeline. They can get this show out there. And I think really, they're going to be laying the groundwork. I think what they're doing and how they're approaching, after you've done the Infinity Saga, they're taking away the pressure to have this great box office success, because who's going to make another almost $3 billion at the box office anytime soon? And they're switching the focus on their other endeavors, beginning with these. I mean, not to say the movies aren't hugely important. I'm deliriously excited for the Eternals, and I think Black Widow looks great. But getting into the streaming world and showing what they can do in that milieu is going to be really important for them. And I think Kevin Feige is itching to show what WandaVision's going to be. And if it indeed sets up more of the new Doctor Strange film, why not get people excited about it as soon as possible? Jump back into the conversation. Their first streaming series is going to be hugely important for the brand. So I'm sure, to me, it's just a big vote of confidence all the way around. I'm stoked.
All right, question here is, guys, how do you feel about the fact that they moved WandaVision from 2021 into 2020? And do you have any theories about maybe why the move was made? Let me know your thoughts. Jump down to the comment section below and leave your opinions there. All right, with that down and out of the way, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets sent in to us by Geeky Gator, who writes, since Uncharted is clearly not making the December 2020 release date, that makes Dune the only big-budget action sci-fi movie during the holiday period where movies like Aquaman, Star Wars, and Middle-earth movies have succeeded greatly. Do you think Dune is set to dominate the holiday season like these movies did? All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And for those of you who may have missed out some of this news, of course, Uncharted is probably getting bumped because they've just lost another director. And this time they lost a director who I think would have done great things with that property in Travis Knight. He directed Kubo and the Two Strings, and then he did a fabulous job resurrecting the Transformers franchise with his great performance as far as being a director goes on Bumblebee. And I thought he was going to do a great job with that movie. He's now left the project, so clearly this project is going to get bumped off that date. That leaves Dune standing as the movie to beat. The question, though, is it? Is Dune poised to become a huge blockbuster hit like a Star Wars, like a Lord of the Rings, like an Aquaman did, making $1 billion coming out in a December date? I want to caution on two things. The first caution that I want to throw out there is this. Dune is not, with the general audience, not a massively popular IP. It is massively popular in certain circles, but it is not a massive popular IP. And, when you look at some of Denis Villeneuve's other work, just for instance, look at the most recent job he did with Blade Runner 2049. He did a great job on that movie, but it wasn't an IP that a lot of people were chomping at the bit to run out to see, and it didn't perform well. It lost the studio money, which is unfortunate because the movie ended up actually being great. I actually like it more than the original, but that's just me. So I would say I would be a little bit hesitant about calling it a big runaway, like $1 billion blockbuster, like a Star Wars or like an Aquaman or something like that, for that reason. The other reason, though, is this. Even though Uncharted isn't going to be there getting in its way, it's not like the holiday season that year and that December is completely empty. There are some films that could pose a problem to the box office performance of Dune. For example, I believe on the same day is Coming to America 2. Totally different genre, I get it, but there are a lot of people kind of excited about Eddie Murphy coming back to Coming to America 2, especially after My Name is Dolomite. And especially after his performance on Saturday Night Live, which was like the highest rated Saturday Night Live in the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah. So there's that. Also, You've got Steven Spielberg's West Side Story. Now, I don't believe West Side Story is going to be a huge blockbuster. That being said, it is going to draw a certain audience. The Croods too. Look, I didn't even like the first Croods movie, but it made a lot of money. The sequel as an animated film could do some damage. The Tom and Jerry film, a movie I don't have a lot of interest in, but I think there's going to be a number of people who do. You've got the new Tom Hanks film, News of the World. That's going to get some attention. You got the new Chris Pratt movie, The Tomorrow War. That's going to get some attention. You got the Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, The Last Duel period epic. So that's going to get some attention. Now, I'm not saying none of these are going to be billion-dollar films, but it's not like Dune is sitting there in December facing absolutely no competition whatsoever. Rob, you take a look at this scenario. It looks like Uncharted isn't going to be released in that December. Given that, how big do you think Dune can be, and does it actually stand to do better now that Uncharted isn't there?
Well, I think you pretty much...
I love when you start your answer with a sigh.
I think you pretty much summed up. Here's the thing about Dune. I hate to use the word elitist, but it's not like Dune. Dune is very heady, very intellectual stuff on one level. Now, on another level, yes, it has a sweeping, epic, Game of Thrones-esque palace intrigue across the Landsrat, across the galaxy, element to it, but it is not Star Wars. And if you look at Denis Villeneuve's work, and I'm a huge fan of his, he's one of my favorite filmmakers working today. Whether you go from Prisoners to Arrival to Blade Runner 2049, he is a very sophisticated and a very, I would say, adult filmmaker. That is not. He's not. I don't think he's a 4-quadrant filmmaker. And while they might want Dune to appeal to kids. I mean, after all, they made Dune action figures back in 1984 when Lynch's movie came out. I'm like, who's going to buy these? But okay. And I think that Dune is the thinking person's science fiction movie. And it's going to be, I mean, look, maybe they'll embrace the action elements and all that. It certainly has an amazing cast, but I definitely think Dune is going to be positioned as a highbrow science fiction epic, and maybe it'll tap into the audience that Game of Thrones did, and it'll be a worldwide hit. But I don't think it's necessarily a guaranteed billion-dollar box office grosser. I think it's going to be something that is not going to appeal to everyone. It certainly is not. Everyone just thinks, well, it's science fiction, so it's going to be embraced by everyone. I don't think that's true. And anyone who's read the book and knows the story knows that's not true. However, if it's approached more along the lines, it's really a tonal issue. It could be more of a Lord of the Rings-esque type thing. I mean, Lord of the Rings, while it had the hobbits, and sure, there's easy ways to get into that, it really appealed to everyone. And yet it had incredible, fantastical elements, but it had a real human story behind it. And a real Hobbit story, and a real orc story too, and elves and dwarves. But I think that Dune, it's a question mark for me because we haven't seen anything from it, so I don't know the tone that they're going for.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. Now, some people might be screaming at their computer monitors right now saying, but the movie's going to be great, so it's going to do well. Well, again, we go back to Blade Runner 2049.
Yes.
That movie was great, but it failed to connect with people from a marketing point of view. It faced that hurdle. And I've gone on and on, Rob, before about just how brutal of a job that they did with the marketing of Blade Runner 2049. They never let the audience even know what it was about. People felt disconnected from it. And you raised an excellent point, Rob, about the fact that Dune can be looked at as a very heady kind of concept thing. And if they approach the marketing to Dune like they did for Blade Runner 2049, I'll tell you right now, it won't matter how good Dune is. It won't matter how good it is. If they make the audience feel like they're disconnected from whatever it is they're marketing, they're not going to go out and see it. So hopefully they've learned some lessons from what happened with Blade Runner 2049, and they understand they've got to find a way to connect with the audience, to motivate them to get out and see this thing. Otherwise, because Denis Villeneuve's directing it, I have no doubt of what the quality is going to be.
Right.
I have zero. right? Like that's not the question for us right now. It's about, can they motivate the audience to go out? And I think you raised the most awesome point here about the fact that conceptually Dune can be seen as a little high shelf.
But on the other hand, I've been surprised. We have been getting an embarrassment of riches as far as fantasy sci-fi goes. The Expanse is a very, I don't know what the ratings are, but it's also a very sophisticated piece of science fiction that's literary based. And I think that maybe I'm underestimating a little the audience because, John, we're seeing such great, whether it's Carnival Row, whether it's Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, a puppet show that's incredibly sophisticated. That's true. The Expanse is sophisticated. So I think our audiences are becoming sophisticated when it comes to literary-based science fiction, fantasy, and horror. I mean, I'm looking forward. HBO's got the Stephen King adaptation, The Outsider, which is a book I read, and it looks really highbrow, high-minded. It doesn't look like schlock. So it's exciting to see audiences embracing this amazing stuff that we're getting. I only hope it translates to the kind of box office they're going to need to justify more Dune movies going forward.
Well, I hope you're right. And the question here is, guys, what do you think? Do you think Dune is now poised to be a huge blockbuster hit in December now that Uncharted isn't there? Do you think now there are still some hurdles in its way? What are you thinking about it? Jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our fourth and final main topic today. And our fourth and final main topic gets submitted to us by Joseph Dennis, who writes, "This would have been the first year for the most popular, thankfully aborted Oscar. Based solely on box office, a runaway for Endgame. But box office is not the best criteria, repeat viewings, and not everyone who sees a movie likes it. Thoughts on who the contenders would have been?" Rob, this is the year we avoided the national nightmare. The Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences. First of all, I can't even believe how stupid they were that they even considered it, but at least they pumped the brakes. They were this close. Actually, they did announce it, that this was the year they were going to do a new category, a pack of idiots. They were going to introduce a new category. They announced it. It's going to be Best Popular Film. Now, just to be clear, it's different from what they just asked in the question. The category was not going to be Most Popular Film. The category was Best Popular Film. That was going to be their category. Now, obviously, this was going to be a desperate, pathetic attempt at them going, well, there's a bunch of movies that don't deserve nominations, but we want to get more people to watch the show, so let's just nominate the drivel they watch. And it would have been a frickin' participation award. That's all it would have been. It would have been idiotic and stupid, and thank God they killed it. But this would have been the year. So I think he raises a really good question, Rob. Here we are. So what would those nominees have been? Now, one of the things that they never really clarified in the whole thing about, well, we're going to do this category, best popular film, they were never able to really quantify for anybody, what is a popular film?
Right.
And they were asked this, and like the president of the Academy was like, well, we're not sure yet. Not sure yet. You absolute buffoon. And I'm sure he's a super smart, super wonderful guy, but I was just so hot about this issue because I care about the Oscars. But it's like, how can you possibly even like consider the idea of an entire Oscar category and you haven't even thought about what does that category even mean? Shouldn't you have thought that part out before announcing to the world that you're doing this new category that you can't even tell people what it is? What does it mean? What is a popular film? We don't know yet. We'll figure that out. But we're going to have the category. Again, thankfully, everybody kind of raised their voices and they pulled the plug on it. So, Rob, for the sake of our discussion here, let's, again, just this for the sake of our discussion, let's assume for a moment that popular film was going to require a box office, a worldwide box office of $500 million. Let's just go on that for now. A popular film was going to be a film that was able to pull in $500 million at the box office. Now let's take a look at this, Rob. The interesting thing about that 500, again, it doesn't have to be $1 billion film. We're just saying if you made 500 million worldwide, you are considered one of the popular films of the year. That would only leave us with if you take a look here, Rob, that only leaves us with a picking barrel of 13 potential movies. This is a strange fact, Rob, that when I started researching this, we realized that we're going to get 9 films this year, 9 that are $1 billion films. That's going to be a number of years before that ever happens again. It's going to be a long time before that happens again. If ever. But this year we're going to get 9 films that are $1 billion. So you'd think we're going to get the number of films over 500 million would probably be like 25, maybe 30. 9 films in $1 billion, but only 4 other films that made over 500 million. Only 13 films made over. Now, granted, that'll probably grow to 14 films as Jumanji, The Next Level, will probably climb over that $500 million mark here pretty soon. So even if you include that, 14 films and 9 of them made over $1 billion. I thought that was interesting. So a lot of people, we were asking online, and I'm going to tell you right now, let's go look at this right now, as a matter of fact. Before I give you my picks, everybody, let's go over and take a look at what today's question of the day was. Now, today's question of the day was simply just that. It was, if the idiotic best popular film category had been a thing this year, which film do you think would have won it? Now, I put this up just before the show started. Almost 4,000 of you guys have voted. And overwhelmingly, you guys are saying Avengers Endgame would have won. 1.9% of you are saying Toy Story 4 would have won. 20.7% of you are saying Joker would have won. And 1.2% of you guys voting said How to Train Your Dragon 3 would have won that award. So that's what you guys had to say. But here's who your nominees would have been. Of course, I'm just speculating, but here's who I'm telling you guys your nominees would have been. The nominees at this year's Academy Award, had they followed through with this idiotic best popular film category, these would have been your nominees. Your nominees would have been in no particular order: Joker, How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, Avengers Endgame, Toy Story 4, and Spider-Man Far From Home. That means getting snubbed would have been Lion King, Frozen 2, Captain Marvel, Aladdin, Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, Fast and the Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw, The Wandering Earth, Niza, which I believe is a Chinese film, and of course Jumanji, The Next Level. But these, I believe, are the films that would have been nominated. When you look at the critical response, the audience response, things like that, I think these are the films that would have got the nomination. Because remember, again, the name of the category was not most popular film. The name of the category was best popular film. And Rob, dude, this is a no-brainer. This is a no-brainer. Now, I'm sorry, I know 70% of you guys said Avengers Endgame would win. No, it wouldn't have. Oh, no, it wouldn't have. The movie that would have won, because only one of these movies, I'll bring up this list again, only one of these movies is going to get nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Only one of these movies is going to get nominated for Best Picture. That means one of these movies the Academy already considers better than all the rest. Because I'm going to tell you right now, How to Train Your Dragon is not getting nominated for Best Picture. Avengers Endgame, I think it's very unlikely it's going to get a Best Picture nomination. Toy Story 4, I think very unlikely is going to get a Best Picture nomination. Spider-Man Far From Home, very unlikely is going to get a Best Picture nomination. But I'll tell you what probably is. Joker is probably... I'll go out so far as to say Joker is going to get a nomination for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. So if the Academy is already saying, out of all the popular films, this is the best one, so we're going to make it nominated for Best Picture, there's no question in my mind. Rob, there's no question in my mind that Joker, had they done the best popular category this year, it's no question it would have gone to Joker. That's obviously the one the Academy thinks is the best film out of that bunch. And that is, again, the name of the category, Best Popular Picture, not Most Popular Picture. So to me, it is a foregone conclusion, no debate, no discussion. The Academy clearly would have gone with Joker. Now, whether or not you agree that they should go with Joker, that's another question altogether. But it's clear that that's who the Academy would have voted for. And personally, I think they're correct. That is the best popular film of the year. But anyway, Rob, how do you see it? And what would your nominees have been? And who would your winner have been?
Well, John, I just don't think you should count out Hobbs and Shaw in this category.
Maybe
because,
not.
My God.
I like that movie, by the way.
With a $750 million gross. I mean, look, first of all, judging by this criteria, we were talking about it before the show started, over $500 million. By that criteria, that 500 million and above, you have to take Endgame. Now, what's interesting about this category is it's heavy on animation. You know, like you pointed out, How to Train Your Dragon, Toy Story 4, both very respectable, but Toy Story 4 and How to Train Your Dragon are sequels, which is fine. I mean, it's not like a sequel can't win. After all, they could be Godfather 2, right? But I think Endgame has to be in that conversation. Spider-Man Far From Home. I bet they would have nominated Captain Marvel, if only because, you know, female-centric film with indie directors, one of them being female, because that could satisfy other questions about the Academy Awards. But I think basically the only one, as you pointed out, that's worthy. Look, I love Endgame. I do. And I would put it in my 5. So I would probably say Joker, Endgame. I would give it up for Toy Story 4, because hasn't Toy Story been previously nominated for Best Picture? Or
Toy Story 3. Toy Story 3 was the third animated film in history to be nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Yes.
So Toy Story 4 would definitely be in that conversation, but I would probably put Captain Marvel in my 5.
Yeah, that's a strong one
as well, only because, you know, it did really well, and the fact that this is the year of the woman. But I don't know if I would go with How to Train Your Dragon. You know, I don't. I mean, I would say that already Rise of Skywalker has made it. Maybe that would have to. It's the capper of the 9 film saga, and I would say, as far as the category goes, most popular movie, Star Wars, I think, would belong in that
best popular movie, not most popular movie, best.
Right. I know, but I think it would probably be in there. But to be honest with you, I think Joker is the only one of these movies that belongs, as far as the Academy is concerned, in that category. As much as I love Endgame and these other films, I just think that Joker, if there was this popular category, Joker would be a movie that would give respect to the popular film category, because it wouldn't just be, popcorn munching movies. I mean, Joker has a real shot at legit Oscars. So it would be something that would legitimize the category. All the other movies that are above $500 million, while all good in their certain ways, I don't think they're Academy Award contenders. You know, and I think you don't want to devalue the Academy Awards either. So I don't know. It's tough.
See, I think also the Academy would be putting themselves in a really awkward spot, because, like, if you nominate Joker for Best Picture, which it's going to get a nomination for Best Picture, at least I'll be really surprised if it doesn't.
It is.
If you nominate Joker for Best Picture, and then it's in another category, Best Popular Film, and it doesn't win, then now the Academy is making itself look completely contradictory. Like, you're saying it's not even the best film in that category, and yet it's being nominated as the overall best film. You can't have it both ways. It's like when a foreign film is nominated for Best Foreign Film and it's nominated for Best Picture, it becomes a foregone conclusion. That's the movie that's going to win the Best Foreign Film category, the Best Foreign Language Film category, because the Oscars have already proclaimed that we think it's the best one in that bunch, because that's the only one getting nominated for Best Picture. So if for no other reason, stay consistent. Now, I understand a lot of individuals would want to vote for Avengers Endgame, and that's fine. That's a different discussion altogether. I just don't see how anybody could think for a moment that if this idiotic category actually existed this year, that the Academy, who is going to nominate Joker for Best Picture, wouldn't vote for it to be the best popular film. And I think you raised a great point, Rob. You raised a great point when you said having Joker in there and Joker winning. I disagree that this would have been the point, but I totally agree with your observation. It would have, in their eyes, legitimized the category a little bit, having a legit prestige Oscar caliber film in that category and winning, it would have given a little bit more quote unquote legitimacy to a completely illegitimate category. But anyway, that's how we see it, guys. What do you think? If they had gone through and had this idiotic best popular film category, which do you think would the films be to actually get those nominations? And which film do you think would, not should, but would actually win in that category? Jump on down to the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With all that down and out of the way, we are now going to move on and take your live questions. You guys have been firing in a whole ton of live questions. We're going to get over there and start taking those. But just before we do, as we do every day here on the John Campea Show, Rob and I are going to take a quick 4-minute break just to rest the vocal cords, stretch the legs, refill the drinks, all that sort of stuff. So if you will hang tight with us, don't go anywhere, guys. We will be right back with your live questions. Hang tight. everybody, and we are back. Thank you so much for your indulgence as we took a few minutes there to take a little bit of a break. And now let's get on and start taking your guys' live questions. You guys have been firing in a ton, so let's jump right into it. The first question today comes to us from Toba97, who writes, Happy New Year. About Sony/Uncharted, how is it possible that two movies with the same studio and actor had scheduling conflicts? Also, last week, Holland said in an interview that he's going to Berlin to film this movie, Uncharted. Didn't they inform him? Your thoughts? Well, Rob, I mean, you and I, we talked about this last week, about the fact that I was perplexed by this. It's like, I don't understand what's going on. Spider-Man is a Sony movie. Uncharted is a Sony movie. How do you have scheduling conflicts? Like, you knew you were shooting Spider-Man. You knew when you're shooting Uncharted. How is it all of a sudden a problem? And I said this on the show the other day, Rob. Look, I've been very, very big on Sony lately. Like the last year or two, I've been very impressed by a lot of their moves and a number of their movies, and they've seemed to got some really good pictures coming up as well. They've really turned things around in the last year or two. But this to me was just like, what the hell is going on over there? You got any thoughts on that now that we've had a day or two to reflect on it?
I think that they just are, for whatever reason, probably gun shy about this movie. I bet there was budget issues. Maybe there was script issues, but not. I mean, I don't think Travis Knight would have signed up if he wasn't too keen on the script. But I think that I think there's more to this than meets the eye, as there usually is. I think Sony is coming off of, look, they had great success with Spider-Man, but Men in Black International, not so good. And I think ultimately they're probably gun shy about doing John, it is a video game adaptation after all.
True.
And it can't be done inexpensively. So I think they might have had second thoughts. I mean, obviously they've gone through directors on this project, and maybe it's a tough nut to crack.
Have they had they've been working on this thing for years. They've gone through three different sets of directors. How could they have second thoughts at this point? Again, it's the point for me that makes me go, this is the first thing in a while that's made me go, really, Sony, what are you doing? But anyway, all right, let's move on to the next topic. And the next one comes to us from Willow, who writes, I grew up with the prequels and had no idea that Anakin becomes Vader. I found out because I rented the Attack of the Clones DVD, and one of the bonus features spoiled pretty much everything in the original trilogy. Darn it. See, that puts you in an interesting position, Willow, that you actually saw the prequels before seeing the original films. That makes you unique amongst it, because I think a lot of people even who grew up with the prequels, they probably were probably introduced to Star Wars first. So I've never really taken into consideration, look, they made the prequels understanding that everybody knew that Anakin became Vader. As a matter of fact, even in that first poster for The Phantom Menace was that iconic poster of Anakin standing there in the desert, with a shadow being cast on the building behind him, and the shadow was in the shape of Vader. So they knew, and they kind of made the movies assuming that. But Rob, did you know anybody personally that, had never actually seen Star Wars before watching the prequels?
No, I've only met them after the fact because I'm an old man, John, and everyone I know had seen those movies. And it's interesting though, but remember, look at how many people that were born, the new generation. There's people born every day, and the first exposure they're going to have to Star Wars is going to be the prequels. They're going to watch them in order. And that's moving forward as time passes and as the human race moves into the new millennium. Many, many people are going to wind up, and they are going to see those prequels first. And I think the entire perception of Star Wars is going to change over the years. I mean, we old fans that can be vocal about things that we perhaps might not like is one thing, but what happens when we all age out and the only people that are alive left in the world are people that grew up starting with episode 1? How will the perception of Star Wars then change?
All right, next up, Darth Poncho writes, just to clarify from yesterday, my opinion of the sequel trilogy may have been affected by The Rise of Skywalker, mainly because of the poor planning, but I still love Star Wars with all my heart, and luckily my childhood was not violated. Keep up the great work. And Rob, we were talking about yesterday, what Darth Poncho is referring to is, and thanks for the clarification on that, Darth Poncho, was that, there are some people who say, I never liked the prequels. But even when I hated the prequels, I never understood people saying the prequels ruined my childhood. Or like some people saying now, like The Rise of Skywalker has affected, like it changed how much I liked the previous movies. I've never understood that because movies are movies. They stand on their own. Like when people were saying about the prequels that they ruined their childhood, I'm like, how? The original trilogy's still there.
Right.
It's still the original trilogy. Like if you don't like, it's kind of like a reboot to me. Like, oh, it ruins the original. No, it doesn't. If you don't like the new one, fine. You still have the original. It's still there. So I've never really understood that mentality of you.
No, I mean, look, I shouldn't say I haven't heard. As a Star Trek fan and as a James Bond fan, I've watched quality fluctuate wildly. And we all want, when we're children, things mean so much to us. They're so they shape our behavior. They become part of our dream life. I get it. And as you get older, things just mean different things to you. Although the one constant that I would expect is quality. And you've been very vocal about not liking the prequels. And I've often said the prequels are bad movies but good Star Wars because I like the lore, but the films are really hard to watch. And I think that, I understand why I don't necessarily think it ruined my childhood. My childhood was great. Empire Strikes Back changed my life for the better. That'll never go away. But I sure would like the prequels to have been better than they were.
Me too. All right. Next up, Landon Mickman writes and sends in a large tip. Thank you so much for that, Landon. Hey, John. I was wondering if you've heard anything about Venom 2 being R-rated. I've heard plenty of rumors going around, along with Spider-Man making a cameo in the next film, which I do not believe that's going to happen. Is there any truth to this? Thank you, and bring on the filthy. There was also a lot of rumors going around that Spider-Man was going to appear in the first Venom film, and a lot of people believed that, and of course he didn't. I don't believe he's going to appear in this next one either. But anything is possible in these comic book movie worlds. As far as it being rated R, a lot of people have talked about that. I don't believe that Venom needs to be rated R. But you can do a rated R if you want to. Now, I just pulled this up. There was an interview done recently with one of the producers of Venom, and this is from our friends over at Cinema Blend. And they wrote the following here. It says, this is what the producer said when asked about whether Venom 2 could be rated R, Rob. I think you always have to think about it. Now that works. Having an R-rated film works. Having said that, our movie worked really well. It did. The first Venom worked great. Our franchise exists as it is. And I don't think anybody is looking to just say, hey, they did it. Talking about Joker. We have a place in the world. So it isn't like suddenly everybody's considering what to do with the rating. I think what Joker does is it tells you that you can succeed. For a very long time, that was the narrative. And Deadpool sort of wrestled that to the turf, and then Logan destroyed that. But for a long time, that was considered totally forbidden. So, I think it's the greatest thing in the world that R-rated movies are being embraced by massive audiences, and it just means that there are more opportunities for that kind of storytelling. So what that tells me, Rob, is that they're thinking, yeah, we could do Venom 2 rated R, but it doesn't sound like that it's really a priority for them to do it rated R. And I still don't understand the perception amongst a lot of movie fans that if you make it rated R, it'll be better. I disagree with that. Some films are naturally more inclined to be rated R, some are not. I think you need to make your movie, and then whatever the rating is, the rating is. But it sounds like they're not going to do that. Do you think they might go ahead and make Venom 2 rated R?
I think there's a possibility they might, because after Joker and after Deadpool, it's hard to make an argument. And even look, John Wick isn't that as successful, but still very successful for a Lionsgate franchise. I think that the ratings have become irrelevant when it comes to box office success. And Venom, dude, I'd like to see Venom tearing people up.
Would be interesting.
Splattering blood across the screen. I would like to see that.
All right, next up here, we got Pelican Mike who writes, John, what would you think on the surface of Hayden Christensen in the Obi-Wan show as Anakin in a role similar to how Dexter's father was used in Dexter? Could be an interesting way of showing how Anakin's turn has stuck with Ben. I'd be intrigued. I'll be honest with you, I'm not interested. Now, I'll say this too. If we found out that they were doing that, I wouldn't just dismiss it. I wouldn't go, well, then I'm not watching the Obi-Wan show. No, not that. But honestly, I think that would just be doing it for the sake of doing it. And I'm never usually a big fan of movies or shows doing something just for the sake of doing it. If there was really compelling narrative reason for it, maybe, but nah, I don't really want. I like Hayden Christensen, good Canadian kid, but I don't want any more reminders of the prequels than necessary. Even if you got Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan in there. So personally, I wouldn't be interested in it, but I also wouldn't dismiss it if they said they were doing that. Volodymyr writes, "Hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much. I remember you said you're not very optimistic about the original Disney Plus movie quality after watching that one movie, Noel. Have you had a chance to watch Togo? It's not just good for me, but for me, it's one of the best movies I've seen." Yeah, so the very first movie I saw, Rob, on the Disney Plus, for Disney Plus's original movies, was that Anna Kendrick, Bill Hader, Noel movie, which is just awful. It's just, and I love everybody associated with that movie, but the movie was just terrible. And I said, oh God, please don't tell me this is what the general quality is going to be like of Disney Plus original movies, because if that's the case, just stick to the TV shows. I'm hearing good things about Togo, but I saw a long preview for Togo at D23, and I'll be honest, it didn't appeal to me, but I'm hearing really good things from people that they really like it. Have you had a chance to see it yet, or have you heard anybody talking about it?
I have, and I've heard good things, and it appeals to me. I just haven't got around to watching it yet. I haven't even watched Six Underground on Netflix yet, but I want to see it.
I saw Six Underground. Let's put it this way. Ryan Reynolds is glorious as always to watch in a movie. And it's a really cool concept. It just didn't quite work.
Van Wilder gets rich and becomes an adventurer.
Well, I mean, it's a little bit like that, but I loved Ryan Reynolds in it, but I love most of the stuff Ryan Reynolds does. And they were trying something really cool. Michael Bay tried some really cool things. Just didn't kind of work for me, unfortunately. All right. Jonathan writes, "Hey, John, so I heard on your show that you walked out of Little Women." No. Why? I personally liked it, and I know film is subjective, but the performances were great. Sure, it's a bit too long, but I saw nothing to walk out of. Did it bore you? I think you misunderstood, Jonathan. What we were talking about is we were talking about the director of Little Women. Her last film was Lady Bird, which of course got a Best Picture nomination. And everybody loved Lady Bird except me. I was the one guy who didn't like Lady Bird. And I actually walked out of Lady Bird probably about halfway through the second act. I'm like, I just couldn't take it anymore. I was bored stiff by it. But no, I have not seen Little Women yet. That's one of the last couple of films I need to see before I put together my top 10 list of 2019. So I have not seen it, so I clearly did not walk out of it. You just misunderstood the conversation. That's all. All right, Jonathan also writes, top 5 of the year. Number 1, Jojo Rabbit. Number 2, Beautiful Day. Number 3, Parasite. Number 4, Marriage Story. Number 5, because I'm an effing nerd, Endgame. I know. Compared to movies like Ford v Ferrari and Irishman, this isn't prestigious, but Endgame was to me of the epitome of epic. But Endgame better watch out, because 1917 is a movie I'm dying to see. As for Oscars, damn it, I'm rooting for Jojo to take the Best Picture if it's not nominated. Irishman, though great, seems like low-hanging fruit, no surprise, so Jojo all the way. Well, listen, Endgame's not going to end up on my top 10 list. I don't think it's getting an Academy Award nomination. I don't think it deserves Academy Award nomination, but you guys know I love Endgame. I mean, I bought it immediately. I saw it many times in theaters. Love it very much, but not a top 10 film of the year to me personally. You know I'm voting for Jojo Rabbit. The thing that makes me sick to my stomach is I actually think there's a possibility it doesn't even get nominated. I think it is likely to get nominated. I think it is likely, but I do think there's a chance it doesn't. And I don't think Taika Waititi is going to get nominated for Best Director. I hope he does. If he does, that'll greatly enhance JoJo's chances of getting a Best Picture nomination. So we'll have to wait and see. All right, Murray Reich writes, I saw Uncut Gems and I loved every minute of it. Greatest performance of Sandler, I think, since I don't know when. I think he should get at least a nomination, but the category is already stuffed. Anyways, great story, thrilling, intense, 9 out of 10, maybe in my top 5. And you know, it's funny, a lot of people, Rob, I don't know if you've been hearing a lot of stuff about this, but a lot of people are saying they absolutely love Uncut Gems. I still haven't had a chance. That's one of the other films I need to watch before I do my top of the year list. I actually talked to a couple of friends of mine on New Year's Eve that did not like Uncut Gems. They were just saying it was really, I don't know, there's something about it for them that it didn't work for them. So I don't know, what have you been hearing about it?
Well, it's interesting. I was reading that article. There's an article about Uncut Gems about how the critical response on Rotten Tomatoes is really high, but the audience rating is low. And I found it interesting. I read a lot of Jeffrey Wells' Hollywood Elsewhere column, and he was not a fan of the film. And I've read a lot of people that find it unpleasant or that it's too manic or whatever.
That's a word somebody else used for me, saying they thought felt a little too manic. Yeah.
Yeah, manic. And I don't know what that means. I really like Good Times, the brothers movie before this.
Yep, same guys who directed Uncut Gems.
Yeah, and I'm really, for me, I'm all about the authorship of something. I want to feel that I'm being presented a vision. And clearly, these are filmmakers that have a vision. So I really want to see it. But I've definitely heard, and according to the Rotten Tomatoes score, that audiences have not embraced this movie the way the critical establishment has.
But we keep hearing from people on the show, like a lot of people on the show have watched it and really are enjoying it. So I'm becoming fascinated to see what I think about it when I finally sit down. Maybe actually later today, I might actually get a chance to watch it. All right. Next up, that was Murray. So we're on Jonathan, who writes, so I'm compiling a long list of 2020. Since I have A-list, I will watch everything good and bad. That's the great thing about A-list, man. And with each movie I see, I want to share my review with you and this great community. You are my favorite pundit, and I share 90% of your opinions. And by the way, sharing the same opinion is not the important thing. It's about whether we enjoy the exchange, whether we agree or disagree. Anyway, to start things off, here's my quick review. QMR for future reference. Quick movie review of Uncut Gems. Frantic, loud, and crass, Adam Sandler gives a stunning performance, but the frantic nature can be a detriment to the film. All in all, a solid movie, grade B. Well, there you go, Rob. We were just talking about that for some people, I mean, everybody's saying that Sandler is fantastic in it.
Yeah.
Some people saying they love the movie overall. Some people saying, yeah, the rest of the movie's good. I mean, so it's going to be interesting to see how I feel about when I see it. Thank you for sharing your QMR on that, Jonathan. I appreciate that. An anonymous viewer writes, can everyone shut the F up on this whole how to pronounce Pokemon thing? It's getting so freaking annoying already. Go watch Cats or some news. Yeah, I am no longer taking any questions on the pronunciation of Pokemon. That just so everybody knows, I am no longer taking questions on how to pronounce Pokemon. All right, BC33, so thanks for that, Anonymous, writes, hey, John, I hope you had a good New Year's. I absolutely did. Thank you for asking. I had a great one. I got to come down to your neck of the woods, so in Southern California from where I live in Northern California, and I got to go to Universal City Walk. We almost went there for New Year's Eve. But anyway, on New Year's Eve, and then went to the Rose Bowl New Year's Day. Go Oregon, the Ducks, and... there we go. Plus, I went to this really good Mexican food place in Burbank called Alfredo's on San Fernando Boulevard. I know the exact one you're talking about, and it's like a 10-minute walk from where I live. Highly recommend you try it if you haven't. Well, first of all, it's funny, Rob, because me and Ann almost went to Universal City Walk for New Year's Eve because they had this big special New Year's Eve, and Ann and I are platinum annual membership pass holders. So we got notified that we actually would get to go in for free. But we found out everybody else who came with us would have to pay $150 to get in. And so we were like, okay, we'll go do something else. And we still had a great time. But I saw some video from that Universal Studios Hollywood New Year's Eve, and it looked awesome. So I'm a little bit jealous of you there, BC33. I'm glad you had a good time, and may you have a fabulous... How was your New Year's Eve, by the way, Rob? I didn't ask what you had a chance to do.
Well, I went to Elizabeth's aunt's 80th birthday party, and then, which was lovely. It was a movie-themed birthday party. And then we went to another party, an actor friend of mine who I've been going to his house for New Year's Eve for years. I went to his house, and that was fun, too. So we party hopped.
As long as you spend New Year's Eve with the people that you like, that's the important thing. All right, let's move on here. I love ketchup on eggs writes, have you seen the black and white still from WandaVision that was released from Comic-Con Brazil? I have not seen it. Have you seen it, Rob?
No, I don't know.
Okay, so no, I haven't seen it, but I'm looking forward to anything about WandaVision. It sounds like such a wacky concept that they're going for in this movie.
I know. I'm in.
Wait a second. Did I get everybody else here? BC33. Yes. Okay. So Abdullah Al Ghatam writes, Hey, John, Happy New Year. My favorite scene ever in cinema is the Rohirrim charge in The Return of the King. It's such a good scene. Theoden is such a badass. His speech gives me goosebumps all the time. Also, are you doing the Filthy Awards this year? I loved them last year. Yes, I am going to be doing probably later in January. There's a thing I started last year called the Filthies, which is basically the John Campea Show Awards for movies, where we'll be doing all the major categories: Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Director, things like that. And we call them the Filthies. And yes, I am going to be doing those later in January. Keep your eyes open for that. And you're damn right. Almost everything involving Theoden in Lord of the Rings is masterful. He was just so good in that. All right. Next up, Jonah writes, all I want from Marvel Studios right now is Doctor Doom and have him as a major villain in the MCU. That would blow me away. Not necessarily, Jonah, because there have been other movies that have put Doctor Doom in as their major villain, and that doesn't blow you away. Just putting a character you like in it does not mean the movie's going to be good. Doesn't even mean the character's going to be good. It's all about how it's executed. But I know what you're asking. You just really want to see a good movie with a well-written Doctor Doom doing important, significant things in the narrative that work. You want to see a good version of Doctor Doom. I get that. I'm just saying, don't get too ahead of yourself thinking that just if they put Doctor Doom in it, that will automatically make it good, because we've had 3 other movies with Doctor Doom in it, and they have not been good. So just be careful about that. Jonah also writes, all the X-Men movies just arrived on Disney Plus in Australia. X-Men 1 is still great. It absolutely is. And it's amazing how long Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, and Ian McKellen have played these characters. It is crazy. And Rob, I still contend to this day that the movie, and I keep forgetting the name of the one Dark Knight producer who was also a producer on the Harry Potter movies. I keep forgetting his name. But that X-Men movie, the first X-Men, if it were not for that movie, we wouldn't be in the age of comic book movies that we have right now. Because, George Lucas, when he saw Jurassic Park, that was the movie to him that made him go, the technology is now ready to do new Star Wars films, right? Mm-hmm. That was what happened with studios with the comic book genre. The comic book genre was not in a good place at the time. And when Fox came out and did that first X-Men movie, various producers in Hollywood talk about how that was the moment when studios looked and went, oh, you can do these movies this way? You can make them gritty and appeal to adults and to younger people, and you can have good story, and you can have interesting characters, and have all the comic book fun, pow, wow, action, and spectacle. You can do that with comic book movies? We never really thought that was possible. And X-Men, that first movie, was the film that did it. And producers to this day talk about how they credit that was the movie. And it's true. Like, if you like any comic book movies today, if you liked Man of Steel or Avengers Endgame or whatever, you should, thank whatever movie gods you worship for that first X-Men film, because that's the one that cracked the door open. Rob, how do you see that?
I completely agree. I produced the special features for the X-Men DVD.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I did those special features. And what's really interesting, I would even say that, yes, it opens with the scene at Auschwitz. And I, though, think that one of the moments that set the tone is an early scene in the movie between Charles Xavier and Eric Lenscher, Magneto. And they have a conversation at the very beginning of the movie at the conference, one of the opening scenes, where you see Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen just talking to each other, having a conversation, setting up their characters and their rift and their conflict. And you look at that and you're like, this is a comic book movie with Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, giants of British theatre, who are taking this very, very seriously and adding so much gravitas and credibility to what could have been something that could have been pretty goofy. And you look at these two actors, and it's their performance, in addition to the introduction of Hugh Jackman as a leading man, that really brought the comic book movie into the modern age and set the tone for everything that follows.
All right, next one up comes to us from Jonah also writes, all the X-Men. Oh, sorry, that was Jonah. Tom Gillard writes, my friend's review of Cats. I wish the movie was shot on film so I could burn the negative. I still haven't seen Cats. Not one of the films that I have to watch to put together my top of the year list, I'm fairly sure. But I'm telling you, just the responses to Cats have been damn entertaining. That's been one of the most entertaining things, Tom, is just the responses to Cats. Hector Jeter writes, hey, John, Happy New Year. So after all this, I have telepathy nonsense. I opened up Movies Anywhere app and I was listening to that scene in my car. And yes, it's there. It was right when Captain Marvel did her turn facing Thor. It was said in a whisper. And I still 100% disagree. It is not there. It's not there. And somebody brought up the technical psychology phrase for it the other day. But listen, I wanted to hear it. I played it over and over again about 50 times. I brought people into the room. I had Kaori come into the room. I had Ann come into the room. And it's like, it's just some random syllables, Rob. Just go like, and people are saying they hear, I have telepathy. It's not there. I mean, look, maybe I'll talk to the Russo brothers at some point, or I'll have a chance to talk to Kevin Feige and I can ask them that question. Look, was I have telepathy in there? And maybe they'll say it was. But Rob, have you gone through the exercise yet of watching that scene and seeing if you can hear them say that?
No, but I mean,
I need you to. I need you to do that and tell me if you hear it.
I will go throw on my beautiful 4K disc and I will listen. But
yeah,
yes,
I just hear random syllables. I just hear random syllables. Anyway, maybe Rob will hear it. I don't know. And then maybe I need to listen to it 55 more times. All right. Okay. Magic K writes, Lionsgate released an audio commentary you can download to your phone and play it when the movie begins. To be specific, the perfect timing would be when the Lionsgate logo shows up. Any thoughts on this? Would be a game changer for the industry. This is Magic K who sent in a $50 thing. So Magic, whenever somebody sends in a $50 one or more, I answer their question in their own separate video, and we're recording all the backed up ones we have today, as a matter of fact. So I'm going to answer this in your own question. I believe you're talking about Knives Out. This is not the first movie to do this, actually. There have been actually years ago, Rob, I don't know if you remember this. I'm struggling to remember which films it was, but there were movies. I know Kevin Smith did it for one of his movies where you could actually listen to the director's commentaries on headphones while watching the movie. This is not the first time it's been done. And it's an interesting idea to promote repeat viewings of a movie. But it's hard for me to say it's a game changer when it's been done before and it didn't really take off. Rob, what do you think about the whole concept of having a director's commentary that you can listen to as you're watching a movie?
Well, that's what physical media is for.
But I mean, actually in theaters.
I think that it's probably a bad idea because here's the thing. When you go into a movie theater to watch a movie, I think of them as holy, sacred places. And you're missing out. I mean, if you really loved a movie and you want to see it multiple times, like it's your 5th or 7th or 10th viewing, I'd say, okay, maybe. But I just think that that's the great thing about aftermarket or the secondary market. I don't like the idea at all. I don't want anything to take away from the theatrical experience. I just don't.
All right. And again, Magic K, I'm going to answer your question a little bit more long form in its own standalone video, probably going up later today or tomorrow. So keep your eyes open for that. And thank you for supporting the channel on that level, brother. All right. Kenneth Colton writes, hey, Gio, I know you did not care for the film much, but the Oblivion soundtrack by M83 is phenomenal. What soundtracks do you start the day with? Yeah, I didn't really care for the movie all that much. You're right. I've told this story before, Rob, but I have a couple of pieces of music, 3 or 4 pieces of music that I start my day with. I get into the shower and I say, I can't say it too loud because I have a Google Home here, but I have a Google Home in my bathroom and I say, hey, Google, play, and here's the songs I tell it to play. Because it only takes me about 90 seconds to shower. And this is the music I listen to every... It still heard me. Hey, Google. Stop. It's still, all I said was, hey, Google, and it still heard me. Damn, that thing is sensitive. Anyway, and I say, here are the ones that I tell it to play. I say, one I go to more often than not is, what are you going to do when you're not saving the world by Hans Zimmer from the Man of Steel soundtrack? Bum, bum. Oh, God, that gets my blood flowing. That Hans Zimmer music from Man of Steel gets my blood flowing. Another one that I will often go to is from the Black Panther soundtrack, Pray For Me. with the music, the song that's playing as they go into the club. I love that song. So I really get into that one. Anything by Linkin Park from the Transformers movies. Linkin Park songs from Transformers movies are awesome. So I'll listen to those. And then once in a while, I will pop in what I consider to be the greatest song of all time, which is Where the Streets Have No Name by U2 from the Joshua Tree album. So I'll put that. But those are the songs I start my day with. In each day, I'll pick a different one, like one of those ones. But I get in the shower, I say, Google, play this, and it plays it, and it just gets me ready to do the show. You know what I'm saying? Rob, you got any songs or any particular soundtracks that your go-to to get you started on your day?
Well, I really like I like Wang Chung's title track from William Friedkin's 1985 To Live and Die in L.A. because it's sort of an encapsulation of everything that's my life has been like living in Los Angeles over the last 3 decades. Every day is a struggle. But and there's a lyric in that song. I wonder why I live alone here. I wonder why we spend these nights together. And I just, it's not true in my life, but it is with my dreams and my aspirations. And I'm still here. But yeah, that starts me out. But also, I really like the track Diamond Diary from the Tangerine Dream score for the movie Michael Mann's first theatrical feature, Thief. That piece of music just gets me started. It's a 9-minute piece of music, and it's a great workout piece of music. It's a great piece of music to ski to or drive really fast when the freeway's empty.
All right. Next up here, Kenneth Colton also writes, I have to mention the theme songs to Fear, 1996 by Cartwell Burrell, Terminator 2, 1991, and True Lies, 1994, both by Brad Fidel. Terminator 2 has not just, obviously there's that iconic Terminator bum 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 bum, obviously there's that, but it's just actually, there's a lot of really good music in that whole one then, Kenneth, so good on you for pointing that one out. All right, Tom Gillard writes, can you please make the 100 million view party available for patrons? Yeah, I might do that. Somebody was asking me the other day, Rob, about the 100 million view party, and I told everybody that I've got the video for it right here, but I decided not to put it up on YouTube because maybe you can speak to this, Rob, but to me, that 100 million view party was way more special than I thought it was going to be. And it was really intimate and people sharing a lot of very cool things, like a lot of the audience sharing some really cool, wonderful things. And it just felt like, you know what, me just popping this video online is not going to give anybody a real sense of what it was actually like in that room. And I decided I'm not going to put it up on YouTube. But putting it up for the Patreon supporters, you know what, Tom? That's a good idea. I think I will do that. But I don't know, Rob, what do you think about that? Like, I just felt like, you know what, just putting up this cell phone footage that Jonathan shot, that fact checker Jonathan thought, it doesn't give you a real sense of what it was really like in that room that night because it was so special. So I decided not to cheapen it by putting it up, but maybe to the Patreon. I don't know. What do you think?
Look, I agree with you. I thought it was a great event. It certainly was much more moving and emotional and fun than I thought it was going to be. I mean, I thought it was a good idea that you were doing it, but I didn't really know what was going to happen. And to be honest, I was really taken aback by the outpouring of real, genuine emotion from everybody that showed up. It was a packed house. I met a lot of great people. Everybody was so nice, and everybody shared their experiences about what the show meant to them, and they told their own stories about sometimes they had hardships in their lives. And if it was shot in such a way that we really could have captured the people that were there, but fact checker Jonathan only had that one camera. If it was multiple cameras, I'd say maybe, but I don't think it would be possible to really capture just how moving that night wound up being.
Yeah, it was really good. And I just don't know there's anything that we could do that would really kind of give justice to it. But I think putting up for Patreon supporters, you know what, Tom, that is something I can do. And I think that's something I will do. So thanks for the suggestion on that, Tom. All right. Fun Overlord X writes, why can't I buy Bad Boys for Life tickets yet? I don't know. I mean, I don't understand. Why do you need to buy it now? I just buy it when they come out. I mean, it's not like the movie's going to be any better if you buy the tickets now. So I think they just know there's no real need to have the tickets on sale for it yet. Just, buy it when it comes out. That's all. An anonymous viewer writes, "Hey, John and crew, I finally decided on my top 5 films of 2019. Number 5, Joker. Number 4, Knives Out. Number 3, The Lighthouse. Number 2, Little Women. Number 1, Jojo Rabbit. Are you planning to make a video of your top 10 of 2019 and top 10 most anticipated for 2020? Thank you for writing that in. And yes, I'm going to do both of those videos. Now, I cannot do my top of 2019 because there's still 2 or 3 films I need to see if they'll crack my top 10. So I haven't watched Little Women yet. I haven't watched Uncut Gems yet. So it's like I can't do my top 10 list when those ones might make it. So I need to watch those this week. So sometime within the next week, I'll do my top 10 of 2019. And then, yes, I will be doing a video of my top 10 most anticipated of 2020. I'll give you a little spoiler. If not at the top, then very near the top will be Quiet Place 2. It was already that way. It especially became that after I saw the trailer to it yesterday. So
dude,
that's
that
something to keep
trailer is dope.
Oh,
man.
Wasn't that great?
That single shot in the car?
Dude, I wasn't until my 3rd viewing of the trailer that I realized, because the first 2 times I watched her, I didn't even notice it. As she's in the car backing up drastically from the bus, right near the end, the arm comes out of the bus. And I'm like, holy shit, I didn't even see that the first couple of times. And I freaked out. Oh my God. And how good does Scarecrow, what's the actor's name? Oh, why am I freezing on the actor? The actor who played Scarecrow in the Dark Knight movies.
Cillian Murphy?
Yeah, Cillian Murphy. How cool did he look? I mean, So if it's not
it
number
looks
one,
really interesting. I love that they're going back and showing us the first day. That's pretty great.
It was a little reminiscent of a zombie outbreak movie, that initial scene, but you just see like the monster all of a sudden, like people running around, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just one of the monsters run by. Like, oh my God, I cannot wait to see that movie, man. But yes, I will be putting out those videos, probably both within the next week. Blake writes, it seems most people, even who didn't like the movie, acknowledge the chemistry and performances given by Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver. I always interpreted their relationship as one that they had little control over, and they both played that really well for me. And listen, I have no complaints about any of the performances in Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. No complaints at all. I'm not going to go into spoilers about some of the things that really didn't work for me, particularly as they apply to like Rey and Kylo. But just in general, the performances, I think the performances worked well, even though I didn't like the film, but I think there are a number of things about the film that I do think worked. And I've talked about those. And I think the performances, generally speaking, were among those. All right, Blake also writes, here's my pitch for the next Star Wars film. Henry Cavill plus a lightsaber. Go. Also, if Baby Yoda is 50, that means that he was alive during Empire. Begs the question if Yoda actually knew and what he thought about that. Happy New Year. Well, here's the thing, Blake. Yoda is a member of a species. We haven't seen much of this species. We don't know the name of the species, but he does come from a species. So that means there's more than 1 or 2 of them around. We just haven't seen them. I mean, we've seen Yodel. We've seen Yoda. We've seen Yaddle. We've seen now Baby Yoda. So, I mean, of course he knows there are others of his species out there. I propose there's probably a home world of theirs that we may or may not see in Mandalorian Season 2 or Season 3, depending on where they go. But, Henry Cavill with the lightsaber, just make a YouTube video of it and I'll be happy. I'll be totally... Like, somebody rob it. Somebody's got to have already taken a scene from Witcher, because they do this with every movie. If there's a sword fight and anything, they visual effect lightsabers on. Somebody give me the Witcher video, a compilation of him fighting with a sword as a lightsaber, and I'll be happy. And then we're good, Blake. We're totally good. All right, next up. Thunder Knight writes, my top 5 movies of 2019 are number 5, Joker, number 4, The Irishman, number 3, John Wick Chapter 3. Ooh, I do love that movie. Number 2, Fighting with My Family, maybe the most underrated film of 2019. That and Booksmart. Those 2 might be the most underrated films of the year. And number 1, Knives Out, 1917, not out in the UK until January 10th. Really looking forward to it. And again, Rob, to me, again, like I said, I think the 2 most underrated films of the year were indeed Fighting with My Family, which is way better than it had any business being. And then, of course, Booksmart, which is right now number 6 on my top favorite films of the year list and all that kind of stuff. But I love that we're seeing some people putting Knives Out in that top spot, because that movie to me it fulfilled I think all the potential that movie had. I don't think I've ever asked you, what would you say maybe to you is maybe the most underrated film of 2019 at this point, if you had to think of one or two off the top of your head?
I have to tell you, it took me a while to see Booksmart. And I saw it because you raved about it. I was actually far more impressed than I thought I'd be, simply because of Olivia Wilde's directing. Oh yeah. I thought the movie was really accomplished, and I really thought the film was terrific. So that was the movie that really stuck out to me as being better than I even thought it was going to be. And I was surprised at how affecting I thought the movie actually was. So, I read an interesting article the other day that talked about how that film, that the reason that it didn't do better is that people didn't recognize that it was too California. The high school presented, the kids presented, that middle America didn't recognize themselves in the movie, so it didn't do very well, which I thought was interesting. But I just thought the movie was a wonderful thing. So I think that was the thing that surprised me the most.
Which is
I hope
funny,
Olivia Wilde has a great career.
I come from Canada, and I totally recognized every character in that movie. But you know what was really... You know what I found? Was it you that pointed this out to me the other day? I feel stupid that I didn't know this. And maybe Anne was wrong, but Anne did some research. So this movie, I've always called it the smarter Superbad. I always found Booksmart to be the smarter man's Superbad. Right. And... but you do have your Jonah Hill, and who is the other guy? Michael Cera. You got your, and so I said, man, that one girl reminds me a lot of Jonah Hill in it. It's Jonah Hill's sister. I had no idea.
Beanie Feldstein?
That Anne says, now maybe she's wrong. My wife, maybe did she lie to me? But she said that the one of the two main girls, not the lesbian girl, was Jonah Hill's sister. Now, I haven't looked this up to verify it myself, but she said it was killing her, so she looked it up, and she said that she read it was Jonah Hill's. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but now maybe you're going to look it up at this point. By the way, you know who was great in that movie? Carrie Fisher's daughter. Oh, my God. Was so funny in that movie. She was so good. Anyway, Lord. One of the great running gags. You look that up for me while I go on to the next question, because you see if you can verify that information. I'm going to go on to the next question here.
Dude,
let's see here.
Jonah Hill is indeed her brother.
Really? I had no idea. I seen this film like 4 times. I had no idea that they were brother and sister. She was great in this movie. So they're just another little connection between Superbad and Booksmart, something I never even knew. All right, James A. writes, FYI, Favreau voiced Pre Vizsla in the first character to hold the Darksaber in the Clone Wars. Also, according to Filoni, the reason that the Darksaber got created was George felt that Obi-Wan will easily best Vizsla with a vibro weapon. Interesting. And of course, Jon Favreau did the voice in Mandalorian of the descendant of Pre Vizsla. So there's kind of that too. It's going to be interesting to see where they go with all that. Clever to Swear writes, there's a trope where the childish/extraordinary woman links up with a regular schmo. Think Fifth Element, Tron Legacy, Born Yesterday. Do you think that dynamic has an undercurrent of creepiness in there? Rob, let me read that again. There's a trope where a childish/extraordinary woman links up with a regular schmo. Think Fifth Element, Tron Legacy, Born Yesterday. Do you think that there has an undercurrent of creepiness there? I mean, there's even a comedy done that kind of plays on that. Do you remember that one comedy is called Out of Your League, with the guy who does... Who's the guy who does a ton of movies? He's the main voice in How to Train Your Dragon. He's in all the Seth Rogen movies.
Oh,
and a bunch of
Rogen.
Like him and Seth Rogen are best friends.
Yeah.
And why am I freezing on his name? But he did a comedy called Out of Your League, which was kind of a play on that trope where this extraordinary woman is like, he's like, just smell a creepiness to it. There's an unrealistic slant to it, but I don't know that I've ever seen a creepiness to that sort of motif. Have you, Rob?
Well, I mean, I can understand that
because that basically describes my whole dating life. I mean, that whole thing describes my whole dating life, but I don't see a creepiness thing to it.
No, I mean, I don't either. Because those relationships, look, in The Fifth Element, I don't think that there's necessarily a huge. We as an audience think that Mila Jovovich's character Lilu is sexy, but I don't think that the relationship she has with Corbin Dallas is necessarily played for sex appeal.
Right.
Okay, it's more of a hero rescuing somebody, it's more of a hero trope, I think, than anything.
Anyway, interesting observation, clever to swear. Okay, next up, James Rel 22 writes, Captain Marvel's inner whisper is actually, I have hot flexibility daddy. Thor's inner thought, jackpot, Thor's spoken words, I like this one. I'll tell you what, James Rel, that sounds more like what was said than I have telepathy. I have hot flexibility sounds closer to the random syllables than I have telepathy to me. But again, I'm dying to hear what Rob thinks about that. I'm dying to hear if Rob hears that or not. All right.
I got to go listen to it, man.
You got to listen, and then you got to text me right away and let me know what you hear. All right. Chris Miner writes, top 10 animated films of the 2010s. Number 10, Lego Movie. Number 9, Kubo. Number 8, Ralph Breaks the Internet. Number 7, the Peanuts movie. The Peanuts movie was actually really charming. It didn't get the love it deserved. Number 6, How to Train Your Dragon 2. Number 5, Spider-Verse. Number 4, Toy Story 3. Number 3, Moana. Number 2, Inside Out. And number 1, Coco. Listen, man, seriously, this was a year, Chris, of fabulous animated film. There was some absolutely incredible, and I believe this, because I think Up, Rob, if I'm not mistaken, Up did come out post 2009, I think, or did Up come out before that? I can't remember. But if Up came out,
it was 2009.
Okay, so it doesn't count for this decade. So I was going to say there were 2 animated films this decade that got nominated for Best Picture. Okay, so take that one out of it. But it was wonderful. All the films you just listed, Chris, are right up there. Do any of those stand out to you, Rob?
Well, they're all. I mean, we've had such a wondrous bevy of amazing animated films. I think it would be hard for me to pull out one. I mean, that was a great list. There's been a lot of also, like, I haven't seen. There's a Japanese animated movie called Your Name that is supposed to be incredible. I've never seen Your Name, but I think that belongs on any list. I mean, I've wanted to see, and I heard J.J. Abrams bought the remake rights to that to do it as a live action.
I had not heard that. But yeah, I mean, like Ralph, actually, I thought the first Wreck-It Ralph was even better, but that might be pre-2009 too. I'm not really sure. But I thought the first Wreck-It Ralph was even better than Ralph Breaks the Internet. Lego Movie's fabulous. Kubo and the Two Strings. The Peanuts movie was...
Kubo's an amazing movie, man.
Oh, it's so good. But Moana, it's good to see. I was so charmed by Moana. I mean, we could go on and on and on here, Chris, but that's excellent list, my friend. Excellent list. All right, Chris Warden writes, I just learned that when Empire Strikes Back came out, it made far less at the box office than A New Hope. Then Jedi came out and it made even less than Empire. No wonder Lucas was desperate to sell. Chris, listen, I'm not going to take the whole time out here, my brother, to give you a full economics lesson. The money generated by that original Star Wars trilogy and what it continued to make long after the films had left theaters is a dollar figure that you and I can't even comprehend. I mean, it's just, make no mistake on the money that George Lucas made on those properties. George Lucas was absolutely not in a place where he was desperate to sell. Look, the main reason George Lucas sold the rights is he got really disillusioned and heartbroken by how the prequels were received. I mean, if it wasn't for that, I think he would have held on to them. But yeah, the original trilogy made him so much money. It's ridiculous. Rob, how would you respond to Chris's comments
John,
there?
I heard a figure once that the merchandising alone, the toys, had grossed sometime after Revenge of the Sith, $22 billion. $22 billion. I mean, that's a staggering number. I mean, now it's like, it's not that big of a number. It's a huge number. $22 billion is just, I can't even imagine. And that's just from one area of Lucasfilm. You're not even talking about video games. You're not talking about bed sheets or whatever. Or I can't even imagine the amount of money that those movies have generated. There's nothing else that comes remotely close. I mean, now we can say the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that way, but there's a lot more movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe than there are Star Wars films.
All right, we're going to start moving more quickly through these things, guys, so we can get through as many as we can here. Min Tran writes, due to her position at Hasbro, is there a good chance that Anne will be in a future episode of The Toys That Made Us? No, because what Anne works on, she doesn't design the toy. She's not in the creative part of Hasbro. She is much more on the business end of Hasbro than that. So no, unfortunately, unless she's in the background as they're talking to somebody else at Hasbro, you are not likely to see Anne in a future episode of that, unfortunately. Jesse writes, random thought. Do you think it was actually Sudeikis under the trooper helmet, or did he only do the voiceover? Seems it'd be easier for guests to only provide voices instead of having to be on set. I'll tell you what, Jesse and Rob, tell me what you think about this, but a few weeks ago, I would have said, oh, for sure Sudeikis was there under the helmet. For sure. Why not? They shot it in LA. I mean, just come on down, get under the hood or wherever they shot it and be in a Star Wars thing. But once I found out that Pedro Pascal probably wasn't under the Mandalorian helmet half the time. I mean, the entire episode that Bryce Dallas Howard directed, she never even met him. He was never on set for any of that. After finding that out, I'll tell you what, Jesse, I don't know, but my guess is probably that's not Jason Sudeikis under the helmet. My guess is it was probably they just voiced him over after that. Do you have a thought on that, or do you know anything more about that, Rob?
No, but I'm sure that he wasn't there. Although, you know what though, John? My initial impression is that no. But on the other hand, if you got asked to be a biker troop, a scout trooper or whatever, and be in that armor and be in an episode of Mandalorian, and you were in town, I'd go.
Oh, I'd go.
I'd go put on that armor. I'd sit on a speeder bike and run some lines and try and shoot a tin can off of a post. I mean, come on. Who wouldn't want to do that? That scene is so funny. Everyone loves that scene. Why wouldn't you want to be the guy that was there?
I would be totally down for that. All right. Next one up here. Where are we at here? Antonio writes, hey, John, Hup the Paladin from Dark Crystal and Babu Freak from Star Wars is two of my favorite little characters from 2019. Do you like them both more or less? No, first of all, Hup was great. I loved Hup. But I gotta say, if I had to pick one, Rob, I'm going Babu Freak. But then again, Babu Freak only had a couple of moments and a couple of lines, right? So maybe if Babu Freak was in like the entire movie, maybe I would still love him, but just not as much. I only got him in just a couple of quick little hits. And maybe if we had Hup the same way, maybe I'd feel the same way about Hup. So I love them both. I'll give the edge to Babu Freak. Rob, if you had to pick one over the other, who would it be?
I'm with you because Babu is very good at his job. So I'm all about Babu. He knew what was up. He got it done.
I'll tell you what, a little spoiler here, not an important one, but man, when he cracks the code on 3PO and 3PO says the things they're hoping to, Babu's the camera cuts to Babu Freak. Hey! Oh God, I died. Every time I've seen that movie, I die at that part. It's hilarious. Okay. Antonio D writes, hey, I just wanted to toss a coin to my Campea. Thank you. A little play on the Witcher song. Thank you so much, Antonio, for supporting the show. We appreciate that, man. All right. Michael Rodriguez writes, Happy New Year, John and crew. Uncut Gems, saw Uncut Gems, and it was a perfect train wreck in a perfect way. Sandler gave a great performance. He deserves a nomination for Best Actor. Thanks, John. Performance, a must-see. Again, we're hearing a lot of different things about this film, Rob, but it seems like the one universal thing that we're hearing from everybody here, Michael, is that Sandler is great. Even the people I've talked to that aren't all that big on the movie as a whole are saying, but Adam Sandler's fantastic in it. And you know, Adam Sandler, he won Best Actor from the National Board of Review. They gave him the Best Actor of the Year. And I think that, I don't know that means he's going to win the award this year at the Oscars, but I think it bodes well for him that he could get one of those spots. But Rob, we've been talking, it is a packed category this year. So I suspect he will get one of those nominations just from what we're seeing. But I'm also not going to be shocked if he doesn't because the thing is so packed. All right. Master of Odin writes. He sends in a $50 one. Thank you so much, Master of Odin. So we'll get around to getting this in its own standalone video. Thank you for supporting the channel at that level. But let's just address it here quickly anyway. Hi, John and crew. After seeing the final chapter of the Skywalker saga, I was left wondering, could they have brought back the character Snoke as the main villain? No explanation is needed, which would have allowed a better conclusion to his story. I will say this, Master of Odin, and we'll go into this more in your own standalone video. My quick reaction to that is, no, it wouldn't have made for a better story. Bringing back, it's all about execution. Remember we were talking a little bit earlier about having Doctor Doom as a villain in your movie doesn't mean your movie's going to be good? It's all about execution. I still believe bringing Palpatine back was the right decision. It was the right move. I just don't think it worked. I just don't think they executed it right, and therefore it didn't work. But that doesn't change the fact that I thought it was, in principle, it was the right move. So anyway, we'll get in that in your own standalone video, Master of Odin. Thanks a lot for sending that in, and keep your eyes open for when that video drops a little bit later today or tomorrow. All right, KW Garrett writes, behind the scenes question. I know on your left is a live feed of the video and chat. Straight ahead is the switcher board and computer with the show layout. But what's on your right? I see you looking to your right occasionally and wonder what you were checking out. Amazing that you juggle it all so well. All right. Well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. And yes, I do have a lot of stuff going on here. I have 4 monitors in front of me. Over on this side is normally a live feed on the show. Right now, though, because we're trying things a little bit differently today, which is part of the reason why the first try with this show went to hell. Anyway, over on this side is Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. I've got him on a separate, let me bring him up here. I've got him on a separate laptop here, over here on this side, on Skype. Now I'm running the video out from that laptop into the main computer as a video source, which you see here. Now, normally on this computer where Rob is, I have a live feed, but we're trying something a little bit different. So that's where I've got Rob. Right in front of me is the main, I got a 32-inch monitor, my main monitor here with Wirecast is my streaming software with all my graphics, audio shots, visual shots, camera angles, blah, 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 blah. All that stuff is right in front of me. Then I have 2 monitors over on this side. The top monitor is where I have the live feed, my YouTube studio open with the live feed. This is where I monitor the live feed. I can see what's being said in the live chat over here, and just where I can just turn my eye to it every couple of minutes just to make sure that the feed is still working properly and all that kind of stuff. On the monitor beneath that, I have the live chat stream. Now you see the live chat stream here. There, you see the live chat stream, but that is being pulled in from a monitor that I actually have down and to the right, and I pull it in from that. So I've got that open, and then beside that live chat stream, I have my files folder open for when I need to pull in some random graphics to pull up that we weren't planning on before the show started. So that's where I pull those assets from over there. And also up the top here where I have the live stream, that's where when you see me and Rob on top of a web page, like a story of a web page, we pull that in from there. So there's a lot of balls in the air, my friend, that I'm trying to juggle all at once. So that's what you're seeing. So thank you for asking, KW Garrett. I hope that made it a little more clear. All right. Mickey Altieri writes, when Star Wars Episode 10 inevitably comes out sometime in the decade, I truly believe the only film of the sequel trilogy, let me try this again, the only film of the sequel trilogy that will still be enthusiastically talked about, positive or negative, is The Last Jedi, because it's been 2 years and it's still very active. I don't know about that. Like, I think some of the controversy of The Last Jedi, Rob, clouds over some of the other stuff, but like to me, the one truly great, memorable film of the new trilogy is still The Force Awakens. I love The Force Awakens. And I think as we get more distance between us and the controversy and the divisiveness of The Last Jedi, I think more people will start to appreciate and think about The Rise of Skywalker. But I don't know, maybe the controversy over The Last Jedi is the thing that does endure. I don't know. Do you think that we're going to be still talking about that like a few years from now?
Well, I think like you, the Rise of The Force Awakens will be the movie that's talked about the most because it was the movie that brought Star Wars back to cinema screens. And I think people are going to reassess The Last Jedi and probably Rise of Skywalker as well because, you know, again, when new fans, what's really going to be interesting is when these new fans we talked about earlier in the show that are being born today, when they discover Star Wars for the first time and have all of the 9 Skywalker movies that they can watch from beginning to end, it's going to be very interesting to hear how people consider these movies, this new generation, and how they're perceived. Because I think the whole perception of them is going to change by people that didn't have expectations going in when they just had the films to look at. So it's going to be interesting to see how the newer generation and the older generation reassesses these films as time marches on.
All right, guys, and listen, our last question today, because I apologize, but, we started the show late because we had that terrible misfire, and so we had to restart the whole show, so we're running a little bit late today. So this is going to be our last question today, but don't worry, guys. I'm doing a companion video. I'm going to do a companion video in just a couple of hours. We'll get to all the remaining questions, so all the questions you guys sent in today via the tip link or via Super Chat, they're getting answered in a video today, so keep your guys' eyes open for that a little bit later. But just for this live broadcast, this will be the last one that we take right now. And this one comes to us from KW Garrett, who writes, have you seen Uncut Gems yet? I have not. I thought it was really good, and I was surprised by the verified 53% Rotten Tomato score. Do you think some Sandler fans went in expecting Grown Ups 3 and thus the poor reactions? No, I don't think that, KW. And I would caution against that way of thinking, because what we don't want to do, and we talk about this all the time, Rob, is that we don't want to get into the habit of making excuses of why other people didn't feel the same way about a movie that we did. So I would be hesitant to go, oh, well, then they just must have been going on expecting, what did you bring up? Grown Ups 3. People were expecting Grown Ups 3. No, I think the trailers and the marketing for Uncut Gems does a very good job in communicating, Rob, what it kind of looks like this movie's going to be. So I don't think there were many people went in expecting Grown Ups 3. Plus, I don't think there were a lot of people that would want to watch Grown Ups 3. So I don't know if that was it. Because like I said, Katie, I know some people that saw it and they didn't like it. I know a couple of people that really loved it. I know a couple of people that didn't like it. So no, I don't think that's it at all, Rob. What would you attribute it to? Understand you haven't seen it yourself either at this point, but what would you attribute it to right now?
Well, I think that the character that he's playing is unlikable. It's not like you go into those movies. Adam Sandler's a guy that people like. Happy Gilmore, and I think he's playing kind of a despicable, annoying character, and I think that's what people are responding to because it's so out of Sandler's wheelhouse. But I think over time, look, I haven't seen it, but I think over time, from what I've heard, look, a movie about a degenerate gambler is right up my alley. I want to watch it, and I love movies about people with gambling addictions, and bring it on.
All right, guys, for now, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you, everybody, for being here today, despite the horrible misfire we had earlier. And again, my apologies for that. Do not worry. The guilty were held accountable. It was my fault more than anything else. Anyway, once again, for everybody who sent in a question that didn't have it answered yet, Darth Hideous, Orlando Orrego, Dino Vader, Rob, Stubble McShave, Matthew Melagranu, and everybody else all the way up. Do not worry. I'm going to be recording a companion video to get through all the remaining questions a little bit later this afternoon. So keep your eyes open. That will go up online this afternoon. You sent in a question. It's getting answered in a video today. So keep your eyes open for that. I want to thank, of course, the wonderful Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, who's here. Robert, thanks a lot for being here, man. And where can people find you and all of your glorious goodness online?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at RM Burnett, or just Robert Meyer Burnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and my show, Robservations.
And of course, you're going to be back on here tomorrow.
Yes,
so we'll
sir.
have a lot more great stuff to talk about tomorrow. Guys, of course, you can follow me on social media where I make a lot of announcements and share some things. You can follow me on social media simply at John Campea. And don't forget, the John Campea Show returns tomorrow. So make sure you guys come on back and join us at that time. All right, guys, that will do it for me for now for this installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here, guys. And a special thank you to all you guys who did send in those questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. Number two, you supported the channel while you were doing it. And And all of us here are very grateful to you guys for that. All right, guys, that'll do it. My name is John Campea. And until our next episode, bye-bye.